Welcome back to Missing. I am Tim here today with Lance. Lance, how are you today?
I'm doing great today, Tim. Thank you so much for asking. I hope all the listeners out there are doing great as well. We have an episode coming up that is, once again, I'm happy to say, a re-release of a missing person story that we covered, you just said, in 2021. It feels like 15 years ago. It's still a long time ago, but we want to bring these stories back out, and we want to use this platform to do so. And, you know, I sound like a broken record when I say that, but occasionally you and I go through the catalog and we say we haven't talked about this in a while. So here's one of those episodes. But Tim, before we get to that, how are you?
I am doing great. Thanks a lot for asking. And yeah, very excited to introduce this replay episode. And in this conversation, we spoke with Niki and Taylor Johnson about the disappearance of their father and grandfather, Archer Ray Johnson, from Brooklyn, Washington. And he went missing in 1986. And yeah, you're right. So this conversation happened in January of 2021. And in fact, we produced 4 episodes on the disappearance of Archer Ray Johnson. This is part 3. So we spoke a little bit about the mystery before. We spoke with Niki and Taylor. And then we did a quick mini-sode episode for number 4. And so, unfortunately, Archer Ray Johnson is still missing. And it's been a long time. But if you have any information, please contact the Grays Harbor Sheriff's Department at 360-249-3711. And Archer was 42 years old when he went missing, 5'9", 175 pounds. Was likely wearing a Black Hills gold ring.
And we would love to have Niki and Taylor, or Niki and or Taylor, back on the show again to give us any updates that might have happened in the meantime. We don't ever want to lose track of the individuals, the family members who we speak to when we discuss these missing person stories, especially if it's somebody so close to them, like a father or a grandfather. So if you're listening, you're more than welcome to come back on and chat with us further about Archer Ray Johnson, regardless of whether or not there have been any significant developments in his disappearance. We'd just love to have you back on just to keep this conversation going.
And Niki and Taylor are still updating the Find Archer Ray Johnson Facebook page. And that's got several posts from just this past year. So they're still keeping the case active. Okay, so I hope you enjoy this conversation. Thanks a lot for listening, and definitely follow that Find Archer Ray Johnson Facebook page. Welcome to the podcast, Niki and Taylor Johnson. How are you today?
Good, how are you?
Oh, we're doing great. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your evening to join us. Well, first, we're doing a series on Archer Ray Johnson, and we have relatives here today. Introduce yourself to the audience. Let them know what your relationship to Archer is.
I'm Niki Johnson. I'm his daughter, his youngest daughter. I'm Taylor, and I am his granddaughter.
Great. And Taylor, you are in the education world. Niki, what is it that you do professionally?
I am office manager at a local church.
Very good. Very good. Very, very admirable jobs. I'm tipping my proverbial cap to you both.
Thank you.
And so you reached out recently to Private Investigations for the Missing, the nonprofit that Lance and I are on the board of, and you spoke with Jen a little bit about Archer's case. What has it been like for you in trying to raise awareness for Archer's case?
Well, for me, I was 10 years old when he disappeared. And so it's been 34 years. And pretty much my whole life, or since then, it's been not a lot of anything has happened. It's just kind of been brushed to the side, like he's forgotten about. And then that's when Taylor comes in.
Now, I mean, I listen to podcasts, I watch all the shows, and so now I feel like finally his story is being told. It's time for that. It's been 34 years. So it's nice to be listened to.
Yeah, he went missing on April 1st of 1986. That's a long time. And regardless of the number of years that pass, you have a right, and he has a right to have some sort of answer, some sort of justice. And I'm curious what you meant when you said he was just sort of brushed aside, just in general, or was it maybe a domino effect of law enforcement, media, etc.?
I think it was all of it. I feel like we just never found him, so life goes on. And I guess I kind of had that mentality. And then anytime I thought, well, maybe what about this? What about that? It was completely overwhelming for me, really emotionally overwhelming. And I feel like because we live in a small town, there's relatives, different things. And then, law enforcement is small, and you hear rumors, and it's just kind of been a lot for me emotionally, when she's not as emotionally involved in it, I don't think.
Right. How old were you when Archer went missing, if you don't mind me asking?
10.
10. Okay. Wow. So do you mind taking us back to that time a little bit and telling us what that was like when you first found that out?
So I will tell you, my older brother, who's a couple years older than me, my mom was a single mom. So my brother and I had a dentist appointment. We were at the local dentist here. I was in the dentist chair and the local radio station came on. And that's how I found out. It was Archer Ray Johnson is missing. And I was, okay, that's not a name that you hear. You're in a small town. I knew it was my dad. So I think I kind of, I can't believe I just heard that. It was rough. And I still have had an issue with the dentist because I feel like it scarred me, I mean, it seems weird, but then it doesn't seem weird. Anyway, so I went out, he had his appointment, we didn't talk about it. And then I went home, my mom sat me down to tell me, and I told her I already knew. And she was upset that I found out that way.
Wow. Okay. I'm trying to wrap my head around that. You were literally in the dentist chair.
Yes, I was.
Did you say anything to the dentist? Did he say anything to you or she?
I think I said anything even to my brother. I think it was I can't believe I just heard that. And my parents were divorced, so I can't remember really the last time I had seen my dad, but I knew who he was. And now I look back as an adult and think, why was my mom not contacted and instantly told right away? There's just a lot of things that were weird from the beginning because she never was contacted.
She was never contacted by police about it?
No, the only way she found out is she worked for the city, which was the local police department was in the same building. They never got a hold of her and said, hey, have you seen Arch? Nobody did that.
Okay. When you were in that dentist chair, how long had passed between when he went missing? Was it on the same day?
I think it must have been the next day. When I read the next stuff, day. I think it must have been the next day.
Okay.
Because of the time he disappeared and the time I would have been, I think it must have been the next day.
And what was that like in the days after he went missing?
Almost unreal, because you hear stories of people going missing, but then you kind of brush it off like it really doesn't happen, but it does. And at 10 years old, I didn't know what to think. And it's weird as an adult now to look on how I think things would be handled if say it was her father. It's just people didn't go about it right.
Tell us a little bit about that. That's an interesting point you raised, that you think things would be handled a little bit different if it was her father, and you're referring to Taylor, because of technology or because of...
Well, I think that because a different time, things were different back then. But I guess from looking at, say, the TV shows they have now, when somebody goes missing, one of the first people they look at is people close to them. So an ex-wife would be, and I think if I put myself in that happened with her, I feel like I would be on the police more. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it as just looking at it differently as an adult.
Yeah, totally. It's really relatable. I mean, not relatable in the sense that it's happened to me, but Tim and I do hear stories, and a lot of our stories come from a period of time from maybe the late 70s to the late 80s, right before technology really boomed. And especially when you're dealing with a small town, too, I feel like there's so many of those stories where someone walks away from their car or walks away from their house, and I guess like an investigation lasts maybe a total of a few days or something, and then it's kind of like, well, they probably just, they got tired of living their life here, and then they were gone. I don't know if there was something in the air in the early to mid 80s, but we hear that a lot, that it's like, well, they'll probably come back, or yeah, they probably just wanted to escape their lives. And then the more we look into it, the more we see, well, they really didn't have a reason to escape their lives. They were actually on their way to go cash a check or something, or they're on their way to, pick up groceries or something.
Yeah.
Or they had a child on the way.
Right.
We did say the small town thing, and I don't want to harp on it too much, but how large was the town at the time, Brooklyn, Washington?
I would say a couple hundred, maybe. I don't think that it's changed much since then.
And out there, everyone knows everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
that's how small it is.
Yeah. And I feel like here, our town is 3,000, and everyone knows everyone. I guess that's one thing I would think of. People knew my mom. People knew she had me. People know, we all know each other, even if you don't really talk on day to day, and it just...
Taylor, can you tell us what it's been like for you growing up? Your grandfather's been missing your entire life. I guess, well, what's that like for you?
It's hard. I see all my friends with their grandpas, and I don't have my dad around really either. So it's just been my mom and my grandma and I. And I've kind of seen that hole that's missing. And I think about how different it would be if he was here. And so I think that's why I'm so passionate about it, because I'm doing my part as his granddaughter, and how I hope he would fight for me if he was here.
It's a great answer. Thank you. What would it do for you if there was, actually both of you, you're very passionate about this. What would it do for each of you to have some answer? What would be an answer that you could look at and understand and maybe have some conclusion drawn that made sense? What would that fill that hole that you just talked about?
In a sense, I think, yeah.
I think it would cover most of the hole. I don't know if it would fill it all, because it's been so long and because of so many people involved aren't here anymore to really know exactly. My biggest thing is to have his remains. That's what I would, and I often wonder what that will feel like. But then I can't think of that. I just have to be, and I know he would be super proud of her, because we wouldn't have got where we're at right now if it wasn't for her.
Taylor, when did you decide to take up this effort to be your grandfather's advocate?
Just a couple months ago, probably June. It's always been on my mind, and I always think, why has nobody else in the family done it? And because they're not, I'm going to.
Great.
What was your first step when you finally made that decision? You said, I'm going to be the person to do this. What was your next step?
I made a Facebook page, and I messaged a couple local news sources, and I also put in a request at the sheriff's office for some information and tried calling them as well.
And did you speak with them?
No.
They didn't call you back or anything?
No.
But you did get a FOIA request back?
Yeah, and they denied that.
Oh, they denied it?
Yes.
On what grounds did they deny it?
It's active, they said.
Oh.
So then my mom tried to contact them, and if it's active, we'd like to know what you're doing and who's in charge and just an update, and we still can't get a hold of them.
You're talking about the local law enforcement from Brooklyn, Washington?
The Grace Harbor County Sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't they getting back to you? Are they too busy?
No. I had somebody reach out to me who had heard a story about my dad. And so within that, I called again also, and I was like, hey, I just heard this story. You might want to follow up on it. The person who reached out to me called, never heard about it. The lady finally got a call back, and she didn't even know about my dad's case.
They had to find it.
Yeah. So I don't know. I understand their call. I totally get that.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of hard to see how active it is if it doesn't really seem like too many people there are aware of it. How big is this sheriff's department?
Not very big.
No, not very big. I don't think they have like a cold case detective or anything like that. But my thought is, it's been 34 years. Don't you guys want to solve it or something? Do something with it. I feel like they don't care.
God, I wish we could do one of these without hearing that same story where, you actually had, I don't care what size town it is. It would be nice to hear that there's someone in law enforcement who will pick up the baton and run with a case and say, hey, this is solvable. Because we did some research. We had Jen who did the research. She presented it to us, and the three of us talked, and we were all saying this is completely solvable. This is there's absolutely an answer here. It's just the odds of it because of the size of the town. Everyone knows everyone. I mean, even if some people have passed who had information, they've probably told somebody something. I mean, I'm just really surprised that maybe I always picture it being like a rookie police officer who's like, I'm going to do this. This one seems like this could be my case, because what else are you going to do in that town?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of the same old story, Lance. But we have experienced this kind of thing with enthusiastic investigators at times. The fellas from Saratoga Springs come to mind. But yeah, it is a familiar story, and it's a shame. And they tell you media pressure is good to get. So hopefully this can help in some way. Media around your dad and granddad's case can help at least get you a call back.
And you did say something earlier. I think it was Niki who said it was really hard with the rumors and relatives, and then we kind of moved on to something else. What did you mean by having relatives and rumors?
Well, there would be the time when all of a sudden somebody would say, "Oh yeah, I remember your dad. Didn't they find him?" Or so and so said this, and just people think that it was just solved, and I'm like, no, he's still out there somewhere missing. And then there's a lot of siblings. My dad had a lot of siblings, a lot of relatives, and if you read into the case more, a lot of relatives are involved. There's other relatives involved, and I think it's hard because people don't want to feel that maybe one could have been involved with the other one,
Yeah, that could make for some awkward holidays.
And I feel like some of the, and I love my relatives, but I feel like some of the times when I would show up at places, it was like, I'm a reminder of him, and we don't want to think about it. We don't want to think about him and just brush it aside when, I think about him every single day.
And you have other siblings who are sons and daughters of Archer?
Yes, older.
Yes. Are you close with them?
No.
Do you talk with any of them at this point, or
nope.
Not really?
Passed away, and the other two I don't really see very much. Just different relationships.
Did they have any relationship with law enforcement or anyone at a certain point early, like back in the 80s?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Do you think that the relationships with your siblings would be different if this didn't happen?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
Isn't it crazy the ripple effect of something like this? The secondary victims. We talk about that a lot too. And I just, again, want to point out to listeners that you two are secondary victims. This happened in 1986, and the math on that is, what, 34 years? 34 years. going on 35 years of this ripple effect. It's if anybody who is responsible for doing something to anybody, you just understand what that puts everybody through, even people beyond you two as well, and your siblings.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my PSA for the time being. And we'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
Thanks to our sponsors, and now we're back to the program.
What about any searches? Were you, other than the ones right after Archer's initial disappearance, have you been aware of any searches that have been done?
No, as far as I know, it was only that first few days.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. We did find out was it 99? 99, someone had so where my dad disappeared is between two different counties. So somebody from our county, which is a different county, contacted the Pacific County Sheriff's Office with the story, and they submitted it to Grace Harbor, and as far as I know, they never did anything about it. And that was the year she was born, so 21, almost 22 years ago.
Okay, and do you obviously more searches would be great. Do you have any ideas on where a good place to start would be?
Yeah, the property where my uncle's girlfriend
Rosa
lived in Brooklyn. That would be the number one place to search.
Have you contacted the current property owners? Because I'm assuming she's no longer, or no one in her lineage is a property owner there.
As of 2 years ago, it's new owners. Yes.
Yeah.
And we haven't contacted because honestly, the thought of it scares me.
I bet. Yeah. I
know people who know them and say that they're really nice people, but it still is scary, So that's where I wish the Grace Harbor Sheriff would do their job, and they would do that.
Oh, for sure. I can imagine that these people would want some sort of resolution once they find out that something might be on their property of significance. I can't imagine that people owning a property. I'm just imagining if the police came to my place and my girlfriend's place here and said, we need to search because this family is missing their father and their grandfather, and there might be something significant. I would open every single door. I'd be like, come on in. Like, you want some coffee? What can I get for you? Let's get this going and get it done. I would imagine that this family would do that. I've never met them, but I would imagine.
I would think so. I would hope so.
Have you ever met Rosa?
Mm-mm. I think I may have seen her when I was younger, but I don't know.
And she's deceased now?
Yes.
And what about Earl? Can you tell us a little bit about Earl?
I don't really remember him much either. I just know of what I've been told about him coming in and talking to my mom after my dad disappeared, asking about me. That's pretty much all I really remember.
Do you have any knowledge about the truck, Archer's truck, and when that was removed from the scene and what happened with that? Has anyone searched that? Do you know of?
After Earl moved it, I don't know. I have no idea.
Interesting.
We don't even know that it really ever even, I don't think it ever really was even searched at all.
Yeah, I'm looking through the document here, and I don't believe it was searched because the search coordinator wrote a report saying the vehicle had already been removed by family and the area was contaminated as far as clues for the most part.
Yeah, right.
Was the car, the truck in the family for a while, or do you know where that ended up?
I would think that his wife that he had just recently married would have gotten it, or Earl. I think if it was looked at, oh, there's the truck, and that was it.
Do you know about this Jameson person, this witness that was in the research that Jen compiled? Do you know that person, or does that sound familiar to you? No? Okay, interesting.
But you do know of that person, right?
Just from the papers, yeah.
Yeah. How much work have you put into the timeline of that day, the order of events, and what significance? Is there anything significant that stands out to you that doesn't sound right?
Well, Jen had mentioned how Earl had said he got gassed twice. And that's weird. That's really weird. And why would you have dropped Rosa off to wait and look for him? That just seems weird to me. And moving the truck, that is the number one thing that bothers me. Today, if someone's missing, you do not touch that. You don't move it. You don't do anything with it. So that's weird.
And as far as you know, the truck wasn't like sitting in the middle of the road, right?
I think it was maybe slightly in the road, but not in the way.
It is a frustrating disappearance, to say the least.
And Niki, did your mom or other members of your family have thoughts on what happened to Archer? Did you hear about those?
Yeah. There was the whole he just wanted to start a new life, and he did it, intentionally, which my mom always has said since day one he would not do that. He was too close to his family. And most of my relatives have never said what they think has happened. I just go on what I read in the papers and how I feel,
I think a lot of them listened to what Earl said and kind of just went with that and said, okay, that's probably what happened. How Earl was really concerned about the neighbor, Fred March. And so they probably all just believed him and didn't really look into it further.
They all just believed him in what he said, which was what?
He had thought that Fred March had something to do with it.
What transpired that day, what he said is what happened. And I think it was just like, okay, but did it?
So was that neighbor around for a while? Did he hang at Fred Murch? Did he stay there for a long time? Did he move away right away?
He went to work, but his wife has always been there. She's still there to this day even. And they were pretty upfront with it, honest with what they say happened, that they weren't involved. And
Earl's story is from I guess they had a disagreement, or they had a bit of a there was an incident where they were trespassing, and that was where the rift started between Archer and Fred March, and that was Earl's basis for the story, that this rift grew to a point where Fred kidnapped Archer or something.
Correct.
It's a reasonable jump from trespassing on someone's property.
Yeah. And Fred even, I believe, took my dad to court for trespassing or something, and my dad was found not guilty.
So it was definitely a weird relationship, maybe even a tense relationship.
Yes.
They were right next door neighbors?
From what I've got, I've never gotten Earl's exact address, but my grandpa didn't live near him, no.
I just want to take it back a little bit. When did you first hear about your grandfather's disappearance? Was it from your mom?
Yeah, I've always just known he wasn't around, and that he disappeared, and that was really all I'd known. And then a while ago, I just asked her, what do you know? And she told me, which also wasn't a lot. And so I just thought, well, nobody knows anything. We deserve to know what the story is and how he disappeared and stuff like that.
And I know you said that you just really started going into overdrive on looking into his disappearance. Have you been to that area where his truck was? It must be tough with travel restrictions and everything today. Do you plan on going there if you haven't been?
Yeah, we've been out there. How far away?
Oh.
Yeah, it's
maybe half an hour away.
45 minutes.
I have no sense of geography. The further west you get from New England.
It's probably 2 right turns in the straight stretch to there. That's about it.
But it's like a logging road, so we're a couple times.
Gotcha. Okay, so when was the first time you went out there, and what was that like? What kind of surreal moment was that?
The first time I was out there was probably when she was little, and it's always just creeped me out, really. I mean, it's I'm sure if there was no connection, it'd be a beautiful place, but to me, I just creeped out. But I think since she's been more into it, we've gone up twice, in the last couple months, and tried to find the exact spot where his truck was.
You said that it probably would have been a beautiful area, but it creeps you out now. It obviously creeps you out because it's where your dad disappeared. Did you bring anything like a metal detector or anything like that? I mean, it's been so long, I don't know what you would find.
No, because where the spot where the truck was is different from where my uncle lived. I mean, I'd love to take a metal detector out to where that property is. Yeah. I feel like I have to psych myself up to go out there.
Yeah, that's understandable.
And do you know how big that property is? That Rosa's old property?
I think it's 73 acres.
Wow, that's right, huh? That's very large. Has that been broken up into sections at all?
I don't know.
Okay.
Trying to wrap my head around 73 acres.
Right.
It's like the size of a town, right?
Yeah.
It's like the size of a small town. That's huge. My God.
Is that like a farm?
Yes.
It is. Okay.
I wonder if it'd be worth bringing a drone in there, flying it over. I don't know what you'd find other than a sense of the geography, I guess.
Yeah.
I know a portion of it, there's no trees, but most of it has trees over it.
And that place has never been searched, that property?
As far as we know, no.
I'm going to go off topic real quick, but it's still about your father and your grandfather. In the information that we were given, it describes him as being a fern picker and a bark peeler, and we were trying to figure out if that is literally someone who collects ferns and peels bark. What can you please explain this to us?
So you peel a certain type of bark off a tree. I don't know. I should know, but I don't. And the ferns, and then they're sold. So you peel them and you pick them, and then they're sold. What they do once they're sold, I don't know that.
Paper.
Yeah, maybe literally picking ferns and peeling bark. Yes.
Interesting.
It sounds really, I think what we were saying was that it was like therapeutic. I'm just imagining peeling bark and it's making me calm. It sounds really therapeutic.
It doesn't sound calming to me.
Do you have any favorite memories of your dad, Archer?
The only thing that I think of when I think of my dad, because I don't remember, so he disappeared when I was 10. I don't remember from that, before that, when the last time I saw him, but I always relate sock monkeys to him. And my mom said that he had one, like the old school sock monkeys that actually were made from a sock. But I don't have a lot of memories of him, really, at all.
I'm not a big subscriber to psychics or anything of the paranormal, other than they might be able to say something that could trigger something or jog something or make you think a little bit differently about a situation. Have you ever had a psychic or anybody of that ilk at the scene where your dad and your grandfather's truck was found? Have you considered doing that?
I believe within months of his disappearance, if not weeks, somebody hired a psychic. I don't know who it was, but I remember hearing something about, there was a story that he went to California. I don't know if the psychics thought he went to California, and then something about him being tied to a tree somewhere. but there was nothing ever came from that. And as far as I know, there has never been any other.
You haven't.
And I haven't done that, no.
That's why I don't subscribe to psychics, because they'll give you a shock detail and to make you like to I don't know, put you over the top or something.
And
Pull
I'm
that
not
emotion.
really into that either. So that's
Yeah.
why I'm just like,
The private investigators that work with us are very much into psychics. They enlist their. No, I'm totally kidding. They're about as opposite as possible. I have one more question. If someone has information on this and they hear this, is it better for them to contact the two of you through your Facebook page with information about Archer, or do you prefer them to contact the Grays Harbor County Sheriff's Office?
I would prefer us. I've thought about that. I think, what if someone has contacted them and they've never done anything on it? Because I've heard stories about that cases go unsolved because people did their part, but the police didn't. And so I would like to be contacted, yes.
I totally think that's fair, and I think the track record dictates something different like that. If someone wants to contact the Grays Harbor County Sheriff's Office, we have the number 360-249-3711. They can do that, but simultaneously contact your Facebook page. Do you want to give the Facebook page address?
It's Find Archer Ray Johnson.